Hi, I'm Julie. Um, I'm here to talk about D&D, which is like my favorite topic in the world, and kind of give some insight into why it is a worthwhile endeavor to join this questing through the realms of self-identities and some other third thing, relationships. Um, for me, Dungeons and Dragons was such an amazing place to learn about self and to have an opportunity to create characters and try things, take risks. And like we get so much information in about how to do different things or things we've learned about ourselves, and we do not have as many opportunities to put that into practice in our day-to-day life because the consequences might be too risky, too scary, too anything. And Dungeons and Dragons creates this really amazing world where we can try things and take those things that we've learned about ourselves or things that we think we want to try out about ourselves and put them into practice in a place that is totally make-believe and has consequence, but consequences that only exist inside that world. So that is where my expertise as a clinical therapist and a sex educator really add to the experience. Because I have this knowledge and I have this expertise, what I can create when I create a world, when I create an experience for players is an opportunity unlike just a generic table that you might play with your friends. Which isn't to say that there isn't an immense amount of value in playing at a table with your friends, but this is a different game than that. The game that I am creating, the game that I am putting out here to be played is one that focuses on these opportunities and focuses on collaboratively learning about ourselves and how we want to build relationships, what we want to be in this character, and take what risks we want to try and take. One of the things that I really pride myself on in that regard is being able to really create a safe space where people can begin to build connections with the other players at the table at the same time that they're building connections between their characters. So two characters might be in conflict, and that might build a really incredible friendship between players at the same time, which is an incredible opportunity that I have an expertise in facilitating because of the skills and tools and abilities that I have being a therapist. So that's kind of a very quick rundown of what I'm trying to accomplish here and why I think it is a good idea for people to come play.
So we are going to Julie's going to answer some questions that we got in advance. And so if you could talk through some of those. One of the questions is, do I need to have any D&D experience? Do I need to know how to play the game?
No, not at all. The coolest thing about D&D, I think, is it is a game that you can come into a table where somebody has been playing for decades and have never played a day in your life, and you really aren't on different levels. And especially at a table that I am facilitating, it's so important to me as a DM that tables are collaborative, that people are playing with the goal of building connection and playing not it's not about, oh, who's going to win, or, oh, I know how this spell works and they don't. Like, it doesn't, it's always, here's a cool thing you could try. If somebody is new, great. I never want to be a gatekeeper about anything ever in my entire life. My first experience with D&D was very gatekept, and I did not enjoy it, and I missed out on getting to play for a while because I thought I didn't like it. And it turns out what I didn't like was being gatekept. So instead, what I do is facilitate tables and facilitate games where brand new people who have only heard about it or read about it or watched Stranger Things can come to a space where they are celebrated, that it's exciting that people want to play this game that we love. So you absolutely don't need to know a single thing about it. You will be there, you will connect with people who will absolutely carry you along, and you will learn all kinds of cool stuff along the way.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Another question we've had is, I feel a little unsure. How can I feel safe playing, role playing and experimenting with identities as part of this group?
It's a really good question. For me, I have the years of experience that I have being a clinical therapist. I spend every day of my job creating safe space. And I take it very seriously. With a collaborative space, what I make sure happens from the very start is buy-in. And I have I have a approach to building tables that starts with buy-in, that we use a session zero to really discuss our what we feel safe exploring, what we're excited about. I love knowing what my players want to do. I'm not gonna put a bunch of players in a urban cityscape if they all want to go dancing around in the forest. Like, that's not how I want to play a game. What I want to do is what the players want to do. And so if players want to explore gender and connection and relationships, then that's what I'm going to facilitate. And in every session, from session zero forward, I always open with check-ins and close with check-ins. So we always have opportunities to make sure that people feel good. If something happened that doesn't feel good, I'm there with my skills from being a therapist and an educator to be able to facilitate or moderate a conversation that needs to happen so that everybody can come back to a place of safety.
If anybody has, we've got another advanced question. We're gonna actually I've got one I want Julie to answer. So we've got a couple more questions, but if there's anyone who's here in the Zoom that has a question, please just send it in the chat, or you're welcome to unmute and ask Julie as well. The next question that I have for Julie, you started to talk about this a little bit. Maybe there's a little bit more to talk about. For someone who is an experienced player or even a new player, can you talk more about what makes this different from a regular D&D campaign, and how they might how this might help them with growth or change in their life in some way?
Absolutely. So it will look on the surface and probably in certain moments just like any D&D campaign, right? There will be exploration, and might be combat, and there will be social interactions, and that's all fun, and that's the biggest reason we're doing this. But underneath of that, a lot of what is going to be focused on, and a lot of what is going to create a bit of a different experience, is that the encounters that I intend to design and the world building that I intend to do is going to be very focused on allowing people to explore places and interactions and social experiences that are things that maybe they want to be trying to do in real life. And so there is a piece of this that is taking a little bit of a risk of building a character that maybe has some of the same shortcomings that we have in real life. And that way we can try and test how to, like, the tools that we want to use. And we can see failure in a different light. And we can take risks that feel safe because we're at a safe table where we have other players with us that can help us go, okay, well, that didn't work, but we can try a different thing. And so a big piece of what I really want to drive in this group is building community, building connection, and really focused more on this idea of going, you know what? I have a really, really hard time asking for what I need. I'm going to practice that in this group. My character is going to be a character who's going to use their voice in a way that I personally am really trying to learn how to do in my own life.
Thank you. One of our participants said, was typing a question, but this answers it.
Hooray.
Hooray is right. And any and all questions are still welcome. My last question to you in advance was, I'm going to prompt it with, we're going to give it more information in a couple of minutes about like logistics and next steps and things like that. The next step that we'll talk more about is called session 0, which is a character building session, which is a no obligation session. You don't have to sign up for the whole series. You can actually like sample it and check it out by signing up for session 0 after today. But can you tell us more, Julie, about like what is session 0? Why is it called session 0? And like what can happen during that first session?
Oh, absolutely. I love session 0. So session 0 is something that is meant to increase safety. That's like, it's at its core, that's a big part of what it's there for. And so session 0 is the opportunity before the campaign starts to collaboratively build characters. So this is a chance for people to come together and go like, oh, I really want to play like a weird little forest guy. And someone's like, oh, well, if you're going to play a weird little forest guy, it would be cool if I played like a elf you found in the forest, and we became friends and hang out in the forest together. And so now you're starting your campaign from a place where you already have this connection. And so from the character building side, we work on making it very collaborative. It's also for any new players who have never built a character, I'm there to provide my expertise on character building and assist in creating a character they really want to play. Specific to what we're trying to do here with this particular exploration, some of what will show up in this session 0 is questions that are maybe a little bit more about self, of kind of going like, what's something I want to really explore through this character? And the example I gave earlier of like, it may be, I really want to practice using my voice, taking up space. I want to play like a really big, like a half giant, because I want to practice taking up space. And we're going to explore that in the session 0. And then the most important piece of the session 0 is we're going to build some safety into the world. So we'll talk about what our lines and veils are. So something that's like, oh, it's a hard line. Like, I have a personal hard line. In our games, no one will ever have any sort of eyeball injuries. It is a hard line. It's something that makes me very uncomfortable. And so I don't put it in any games that I play for any reason. Everybody's eyeballs are good to go. So that's something that I will bring to the table. And any other person who's playing can bring any lines that they have, or anything that they're like, you know what? I'm okay with this thing existing in the world, but can we not role play it? And that's something that we can talk about as well, of like, that's what we call a veil. It's something that would maybe happen off screen. So that's one of the safety tools that I'll use in the session 0, so that we can really start to build and establish a safe place where people can feel like, hey, I can take a big risk because I'm not suddenly going to be startled by an eyeball situation that I'm not okay with.
There's no additional questions in the chat right now. I'm going to I want to describe the next steps, but then actually, Julia, if you could, I'd want you to talk a little bit about like, why the sessions are this many hours, why 10 weeks, and things like that. Why, we're doing this first on Zoom. So I'll just kind of give the very basic info, and then if you could speak to that.
Sure.
So like I mentioned before, the next step after this is we're going to put the Eventbrite link to sign up for just session 0, no obligation for the future ones, although it is session 0 as part of the 10-week series. It's going to be 10 weeks in a row. We've talked about Friday nights, 3 hours, and that includes a break. So that includes like, how long would that break be in the middle of the 3 hours?
Generally, it's 20, 25 minutes. It's an opportunity to bio break, get a snack, get water, whatever you need to do. And also just like I like to build it in as an opportunity that if something happened in the first half of the game that you want to check in about, it's also that opportunity to check in.
I love that. So that building in that safety. So 3 hours a night for 10 weeks, including the session zero, and up to 6 people, starting in session two. Session zero can have a bunch more people so they can, you know, learn about the campaign, the group, and see how they feel about it. And then based on that, we might start 2 groups or 1 group back to back. And so, yeah, if you could speak to a little bit more now about like the 10 weeks, the 3 hours, like, why is it set up in that way?
So tabletop games are really interesting in that they are all make believe. Like we are starting from scratch. And so when you are at a table with 4 or 5 or 6 other people, that's a lot of really cool stuff happening, right? You've got up to 7 incredible brains bringing incredible creative imaginative things to the table. And in order to make sure that everybody has a spotlight, everybody gets, I want this to be a collaborative world. That is what matters to me. And so I want to make sure that we aren't skipping over something that could be in like deep rich world building because we're crunched for time. And so that is what really drives that idea of like, we need about 3 hours. Plus, we all want to get settled in and comfortable. And, a lot of people on Friday, we've worked all week long. And what we're looking to do is unwind and relax and connect and have fun. And that isn't just a switch for a lot of people. So being able to kind of melt into, okay, I'm playing my character now. Okay, I'm done with work and now I'm here. We want to give people, again, to some extent, this is part of my way of building safety into something, is that people can come in at the pace they need to come in at, and that it doesn't feel like, okay, if I'm not immediately like on all 10 cylinders going, I'm going to miss the game. Like, no, like we want to come in, we want to be comfortable, we want to settle into a fun time together. So that is a big driver for the 3 hours. And also like stuff takes a long time sometimes, right? Like in games, when you're taking, if we're in a situation where people are taking turns, like you've got 6 people, 6 turns. People want to think about what they're doing. I don't want people to feel rushed. Again, if we have new players, I want people to have the opportunity to ask questions. We really want to create space where time is not a pressure. 10 weeks. 10 weeks is about actually getting to tell a story. 10 weeks is about growth and change. 10 weeks is, hey, if you're coming in here saying, I want to learn how to use my voice, you're probably not using your voice in week 1. Because if you were able to use your voice the whole time, that wasn't really the thing you were trying to grow and change. So week 8, week 9, maybe we really see that big narrative moment happen. But we want to build to it. We want to, both from a growth and change place and also from like a fun collaborative storytelling place. Like we want the impact to be there. In order for the impact to be there, we have to build a story. So 10 weeks is really about building the story and about getting that opportunity to try those things and make those changes and experience that growth.
If someone wants to ask more questions, Julie is totally open to talking to you, emailing with you. So their email is right there. I'm putting it in the group chat right now. So it says, if you have more questions, you can just email us at julie@thecentercd.com. Or if you forget that email, you can just go to our website, thecentercd.com. And there's an email address at the bottom of every page. It's info@thecentercd.com. I'll make sure that Julie gets the email. But the next step would be to ask Julie questions or me questions over email, and or just sign up on Eventbrite for session 0, which is May 3rd. And Julie, do you have any like final thoughts or anything that you want to share before we close our info session tonight?
It's going to be cool. Like it's just going to be really cool and really fun. And, if it's something that you can swing it, because you won't regret it.
Thank you to everyone who joined tonight. As you probably noticed from the beginning, this session was recorded and will be used for marketing and information purposes on our social media, on Facebook or Instagram, or now we have the YouTube channel. And Julie, thank you so much for doing this info session tonight. So excited. And now I'm going to close our session for the evening, and I hope you all have a great and wonderful week. Hope to see you at the session 0, or email us for more questions. Thanks to everybody, and goodbye.
Thank you all so much. Thank you.